I think, the biggest problem that we have with breastfeeding and breastfeeding rates in this country is that lack of support. There is any woman that starts off deciding, I want to breastfeed, really should have all the support that they need to be able to achieve that. And we know that long labours, we know that extensive blood loss and surgery impact on when your milk comes in, because, as humans, we're still, as a species, we've evolved so that the mother is she is the entity in the species that will be kept alive at the expense of any offspring, because nature sees to it that you can have more offspring. So it's not going to produce milk at the expense of the mother if that mother is not well enough to do that. And this is something that we forget, that, anyone that's been through a traumatic labour, a long labour, has lost a lot of blood, has had major surgery, then the body will prioritise healing itself at the expense of that milk supply. And these are the women that need a lot more support in the hospital from, breastfeeding support workers, breastfeeding counsellors, to help with that initiation of supply, and then afterwards as well. And for many women, that support is just not there anymore. I think the NHS is having to rely more on charities. We've not been able to have face-to-face support. So women are then left in a position of, right, well, my mental health is now suffering because
massively
I can't do this anymore. And the sensible person is saying, no, you can't do this. This is breaking you. This is not healthy. And, as a midwife in the NHS, it was tantamount to sacking to say that to a woman. You need to stop this now. You couldn't say that.
Yeah, well, that rings true. I mean, my wife, I know she tried, and of course, the more you try and it doesn't work, the more you don't want to try. Well, certainly for her. And then, we brought our son home, and then probably 3 or 4 days of trying and not really understanding what it should feel like and not being sure if it's working. And then a midwife coming out. And then, of course, our child had lost too much weight. So we had to go back in. And then you have the guilt of, listen, I've starved my child. That makes me a terrible mother. And all that going through your mind.
That's it.
So we went, I should say she went through that really. So it kind of put her off even trying the second time, because that first experience was, no one spent any time with her. And I'm not sure if you can show a woman how to breastfeed, right? But I'm sure there's probably a little bit that could have been done, but we were sent home without really it being able to be done. And then left to keep trying without any information. Even if someone had said, listen, try for 2 days, it don't work. Dad, get the bottle out and just get feeding. But we didn't. And, we were probably in a place where we didn't leave it too long because luckily there's always that scheduled visit within 4 or 5 days. But if it had gone on for much longer, might have been in a bit of a different situation.
But it's that guilt that you have because you take on the responsibility for those decisions when you didn't know what you didn't know. And that's the problem, isn't it?
That's exactly the problem, yeah.
You're left to sort it out and you don't know because no one's actually told you what's normal. Is this safe? Is this unsafe? Is this a normal amount of feed?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Even the measurements are, the sports nutritionist in me likes a bottle, because I can see 100 mils. I can see, I'm used to that. I'm used to mixing a protein drink, right? So that kind of my, disciplined, kind of methodical brain, it speaks to, but that's not happening when you're, when you're breastfeeding. So, that was a really, I can remember feeling that was a massively lonely time. For both of us really, but especially for my wife, because it's her job, right, to feed her child, and she's always told that, and mothers are always told that, and then when they're not accused, but when it appears that they're not doing that, then that causes some real turmoil. But yeah, it's an interesting, I mean, it was a lesson for us. And, certainly by the second one, we'd learned all the lessons that we probably learned from the first one to get us in the position for the second time. And every parent I know says the second one's a doddle. And that's kind of how it was for us, really.
I think you learn so much, don't you, about then what not to feel guilty about, because you get so angry, and you're in the recovery and going through and working back through the birth and the recovery and the guilt and working through that, you realize that actually, no, I've got no reason to feel guilty. I was not given support. I was not given information.